He woke to silence. Not the kind that brought peace, but the kind that gnawed, as if the world had been swallowed whole and left only breathless stillness in its place. Corrin Vale blinked slowly, vision fractured by spiderweb cracks on his helmet visor. Every breath rasped against the inside of his throat. Warning lights blinked dull red at the edges of his display, oxygen low. Suit compromised. System error. He didn't move at first. Just stared up at a sky that looked nothing like Earth. Green and fractured, like glass with moss beneath. The moons, 2 of them, hung low and pale, staring down like patient gods. Thick clouds oozed across the horizon, moving too slowly to be natural. This wasn't Earth. Wasn't the moon station. Wasn't even charted, not by anything he'd read in 5 years of deep sector protocol. He was alone. And he remembered. The mission. The Severin had been carrying both diplomats and scientists, an attempt at mending fragile treaties with the Alvari Alliance. The deal was simple: mutual cooperation, shared infrastructure, cultural exchange. Everyone knew it was risky, but they said peace was worth the gamble. He had boarded the ship 3 days before launch as a last-minute replacement for an injured tech. Quiet. Background. Never meant to lead or fight or negotiate. Just maintenance. Just someone who knew how to fix what broke. And everything had broken. In the final hour, the Alvari fleet opened fire. Not directly, but with purpose. They hit human power cores, not hulls. They disabled engines, not weapons. They wanted them dead in the silence of space, not war. No survivors. No scandal. Just a malfunction in transit. Corrin's pod had ejected mid-spin, tossed into the atmosphere of a dark green world at terminal speed. He'd blacked out before impact. And now, he was here. Bones aching. Lungs struggling. Brain catching up with grief. He reached for his side and winced. Torn fabric. Blood. Not lethal, but bad enough. Corrin, if you're out there. His breath hitched. The voice was hers. He scrambled to tune his comm interface. It wasn't live, it was a loop. A message. Garbled but unmistakable. I left markers. Follow the wind towers. I don't know how long I have. Sola. Her name struck him harder than any impact. Sola Nyrith. Systems analyst. Detail-oriented, always late to briefing, eyes like stars through fog. They hadn't been anything official. Maybe never would have been. But they'd almost been. And that almost echoed now, sharp in his chest. She'd been on the other side of the Severin when the attack happened. Her section shouldn't have failed first. But she'd survived long enough to leave this. And she believed he might, too. Corrin wiped dust from the edge of his cracked display. I hear you, he said softly to no one. And I'm coming. He moved slow. The terrain resisted him at every step. Jagged obsidian plates rose like broken teeth from the earth. Alien moss hissed when touched. Some sections pulsed with heat, others with cold. The planet had a heartbeat, but not one meant for human life. He found the first marker after 8 painful hours of limping. An old recon drone, scrapped, dented. Its internal core had been rewired. Not expertly, but with desperate precision. Etched into its plating was a small, circular symbol. A spiral. He smiled, just barely. She'd drawn spirals in the margins of her notes. Said the galaxy curled like a thought halfway to clarity. Said his hair curled like a spiral when he got nervous. She'd said it to tease him. He'd never responded. Now he ached to hear her say anything. He scavenged what power he could. Patched his suit with fragments. Drank recycled condensation and prayed it was enough. And he walked. Night came like a curtain drawn without warning. The temperature dropped. Not gently, but violently. The sky turned black as burned coal. The wind screamed through the canyon like something alive. Corin found a broken pillar of alien stone and hid inside its hollowed interior. Small fires burned at a distance, faint orange flickers. Eyes. Or lights. He couldn't tell. He didn't sleep. He stared at the flickering HUD and whispered her name like a spell. Sola. 2 days passed. He found more signs. Spirals on rock. Shaped moss. Dead machinery turned into breadcrumbs. She hadn't just left a trail, she'd cared about whether someone could follow it. Whether he could. Once, he found a hollowed alcove with a heat source and scraps of food packaging. She'd stayed there. Slept, maybe. Her scent lingered, barely. Like lavender and soldering metal. It nearly broke him. But it kept him moving. On the 4th day, the wound in his leg flared. Something had bitten him, no, cut him in the night. Not a creature. A trap. Barbed and old. Alien-made. He stitched it with shaky hands. Sterilized it with the last heat patch. Pain made the world narrow, but he didn't stop. Every breath was effort. And still he walked. On the 7th day, he collapsed. Not from injury, but from something else. A weight of emotion too heavy to carry. He'd found a chamber inside a crystalline mountain, its walls shimmering with old energy. And in its center, an object. Her necklace. A small, silver disc etched with binary patterns. A joke from the academy. She'd worn it always. He picked it up and pressed it to his chest. A voice played. Her voice. Soft. Barely there. Like wind. Corin, if you're hearing this, it means you made it. And if you made it, then maybe this isn't the end. Maybe love's not something that dies in orbit. Maybe it's the thing that survives. He sat for hours, listening to it again and again. He wasn't the only one following her trail. At the base of the canyon, he found another human, barely more than a boy. Pale. Unconscious. Bones showing. Left inside a shattered emergency pod. He pulled him out. Stabilized him. Used the last of his med gel. The boy's name was Laser. When he woke, his voice cracked like old radio. She saved me. The girl. Sola. She said someone would come. Someone she believed in. Corin's chest ached. Where did she go? He asked. Laser pointed toward the horizon. Into the towers. Said she had to reach the core. Said, love wasn't just memory. It was signal. It took 2 more days. He carried Laser part of the way. Followed the wind towers, great spires of black glass that hummed with residual power. They were not human. Not Alvari. Older. Almost sentient. Inside the tallest one, Corin found the final chamber. Dim blue light pulsed from the ceiling. A power field shimmered like liquid air. Inside, Sola. Suspended. Not dead. Not fully conscious. Her body preserved in the field. Her vitals faint, but stable. She was alive. His hand touched the edge of the barrier. A pulse of light rippled outward. And her eyes fluttered open. Just barely. I knew, she whispered, voice like cracked porcelain. I knew you'd find me. His knees hit the floor. He didn't cry. He just said her name again. This time, not alone. The stars were upside down when Aneda Faye woke up. She opened her eyes to a twilight sky painted in swirling amber clouds and pale light that didn't seem to come from a sun. Nothing was where it should have been. Gravity felt slanted. Colors were wrong. The air smelled like citrus and burnt ozone. She coughed once, then again, lungs stinging, ribs bruised. Her body ached in every place she remembered owning. "Still alive," she whispered. The words came cracked, but they came. Her suit was intact. Mostly. The emergency pod had landed in a thicket of violet grass, its leaves curling inward like hands. The beacon was fried, the med kit was empty. But she was breathing. And she was alone. Eneda had never signed up to be a hero. She didn't carry a gun. Didn't believe in front lines. She'd been aboard the Alaris, a civilian research vessel contracted to analyze rare botanical samples in the border systems. Nothing political. Nothing violent. That was the idea. But just like on Corin Vale's ship, the Severin, everything had gone wrong. Communications jammed. Unidentified vessels firing on escape pods. And no one answered the distress beacons. Her pod was hit during descent. It spun, twisted, threw her into unconsciousness, and left her here. Wherever here was. The first few hours were numb. Survival instinct did what it always did, scan for water, food, shelter. No humans in sight. No signs of civilization, not even crashed debris. Just an endless stretch of alien vegetation under a sky that didn't know what a sun was. But then, she saw them. The trees. They weren't like Earth trees. They shimmered. Literally shimmered, tall crystalline trunks with translucent bark and silver-blue leaves that moved without wind. Each branch held a glowing orb, pulsing like a heartbeat. An orchard. Perfectly spaced. Almost geometric. She approached the nearest tree, heart thudding. The leaves rustled, not randomly, but in patterns. And the orb near her glowed brighter. Inside, she saw a shadow flicker. Not a reflection. A memory. Hers. Her first day at the academy. Hands in soil. Laughing in the greenhouse with her sister. Even her childhood dog, Annie, tail wagging in a blur. Eneda stepped back, breath catching in her throat. The tree had read her. And remembered. Over the next few days, she made camp near the orchard's edge. Food came from fruits grown on the vines that clung to the outer trees, sweet, glowing softly, easy to digest. Water dripped from the bark in slow droplets that sparkled in midair. Her body healed slowly, nourished by the forest. But her mind drifted. Every tree showed her something. Memories she hadn't thought about in years. Emotions half forgotten. People she missed. The trees didn't just reflect, they learned. Each day, they became more vivid. More specific. And then, one tree showed her a man. Not anyone she remembered. A man with ash-brown hair. Tired eyes. Limping through broken terrain. Whispering someone's name. Reaching for a woman preserved in light. Eneda frowned. "I don't know you," she murmured. But the trees did. On the 6th night, the sky shimmered. The stars rearranged themselves into spiral shapes. Lights blinked from above, like something ancient had awoken behind the clouds. And the orchard changed. Some trees darkened. Others bloomed. The air became heavier, as if mourning something. Then she heard it. A signal, weak, pulsing, just at the edge of her suit's range. "This is Commander Ryan Voss, betrayed by the Alvari, signal traces detected, Lieutenant Sierra Hale." She froze. Not because of the name, but because the voice matched the man in the trees. He wasn't just a memory. He was real. Eneda spent the next morning climbing the tallest tree she could find. Its bark was smooth, hard like glass, but she managed to reach a branch that extended toward the eastern ridgeline. From there, she saw it. A tower. Not like the orchard's organic shapes, but black. Metallic. Human. A remnant. A ruin. And possibly, Her way out. The journey took 2 days. The landscape beyond the orchard was harsh, cracked stone, shifting sand, strange plants that hissed and recoiled. More than once, she saw movement behind the rocks. Long shapes. Insectal. But they didn't attack. They just watched. As if the orchard had marked her. The tower was half buried. Its surface worn by time. A rusted plate near the base bore the symbol of Earth's Science Division, though old, maybe pre-war era. The entrance opened with a creak. Inside, silence. Consoles shattered. Power flickering. But then, a screen blinked to life. Not hers. A message. Looping. A woman's voice. Weak. This is Lieutenant Sierra Hale. Outpost 47. I'm the last, please don't forget me. Aneda sat down. Hard. Not because of the message, but because the trees had shown her this. This room. This voice. This moment. The orchard wasn't just reflecting her. It was connected to something deeper. Someone had been there before her. In a side chamber, she found something stranger. Not human. Not alien. A device half-built from human scrap and alien tech. It blinked when she approached. Read her bio-signal. And showed her another message. But not from Hale. Not from any lieutenant. From him. The man with the tired eyes. He was alive. He had built a new transmitter. He had sent a signal strong enough to shake the sky. And he had said something not meant for Earth, but for the Alvari. If you're listening, you failed. Aneda touched the screen. The static buzzed under her fingers. Her heart skipped. She didn't know his name. But she knew his face. The orchard had shown her his grief. His love. His hope. And now, he had become hers. She returned to the orchard that night. The trees glowed brighter. And in the central grove, a new tree had grown. Shorter. Still young. Its orb flickered not with memory, but possibility. Inside, she saw them. Her. And him. Together. Not now. Not here. But somewhere. She fell asleep with her head against the bark, whispering. Wait for me. He woke with a woman's name on his lips. But he didn't know whose. The pod hissed open with a release of ancient air, stale and wrong. Light stabbed through his eyelids like white wire. Cold seeped into his skin, not because of the temperature, but because of something deeper. Something missing. He coughed, rolled to one side, and retched up stasis fluid. Every joint screamed. His vision blurred, then sharpened. The sky above was a pale metallic gray, unmoving. The ground was red ash, soft and undisturbed. No wind. No sounds. No stars. He stood, shakily, knees cracking beneath him. He didn't remember his name at first. Didn't remember where he was, or when, or why. But he remembered her voice. Soft. Laughing. Saying something about fireflies on Titan. Calling him something warm. You idiot. A smile beneath the scolding. The wreckage nearby looked old, years old. Half-buried structures, some shattered towers, a twisted husk of a starship long beyond repair. Burned markings on the hull, UEC Thales. His hand moved over the ship's rusted letters. They meant nothing. But something inside him whispered, I was here. And someone else had been too. His name came back hours later, scrawled into a journal buried beneath sand in one of the ruined rooms. Salas, Marek. Specialist. His handwriting. His notes. Erratic. Scrawled over technical readouts. A sentence repeated, again and again. Don't forget her. Even if they take it. Even if they wipe it out. Don't forget. He read it until his eyes burned. Until his knees gave out and he sat there, shaking, with no memory of who she was, but knowing, somehow, she was the only thing that mattered. The facility had been a research site. Part alien, part Earth-built. Merged tech. A hybrid system he didn't recognize, though his fingers moved across the consoles with instinct. Everything was decayed, powered down. Except for one room. Locked. Protected. He bypassed it on his third try, out of muscle memory more than logic. Inside, a stasis chamber. And a broken transmitter. And on the walls, photographs. People. A crew. Names scrawled beneath their smiles. And one woman, over and over again. Sometimes with him. Sometimes not. Same eyes every time. Not a girlfriend. Not a wife. Someone more. But he couldn't name her. On the back of one photograph, a message. If you ever wake up before me, follow the singing stones. I'll be listening. No signature. No coordinates. But he knew she'd written it. Because the moment he read the words, something inside him broke like light through water. He buried the photos in a metal case and strapped it to his belt. He was going to find her. The planet, wherever it was, barely breathed. The wind didn't move unless you moved first. The rocks hummed if you listened. Even the sun didn't rise. Light simply increased. But the stones were real. Black crystalline monoliths that shimmered faintly when approached. Not just singing, resonating. Low, melodic notes that shifted with emotion, not distance. And every time he came close, they changed. Their song mirrored his feelings, fear, awe, grief. And hope. He followed them through a desert that changed color every night. Through a canyon where echoes spoke back in voices not your own. Once, he saw shapes moving in the distance, human, but twisted. Not hostile. Just, sad. On the seventh day, the stones brought him to a cave. Inside, light. Green-blue. And writing. Not alien. Not Earth standard. Hers. Carved into the wall in spirals. In loops. In small stars. A diary, mapped on stone. Marek, if you're reading this, you made it. Or maybe I'm the one who made it. Either way, this place listens. It remembers. Like the trees did back on Linares, for, remember the whisper fruit? You almost set your hair on fire. Idiot. He didn't laugh. But he did cry. Quietly. Hands trembling. Back against the wall. Something inside him felt less like a wound and more like a door, opening. He stayed the night in the cave. Slept beside her words. Days blurred. But the memories began to return. Not all at once. Not like a switch. More like dust rising in slow-motion sunlight. Scattered moments. A song she'd hummed. Her boots leaving a smaller trail next to his in the snow. A fight. A kiss. The way she said, no, when she meant, please stay. His brain didn't remember. But his heart did. Then, he found the ruin. Not hers. Someone else's. A black tower, humming with alien tech. Similar to the one in the journal's last sketch. Inside, a new voice. A man's. Recorded on cracked audio, distorted by distance. But words were words. This is Commander Ryan Voss. Betrayed by the Alvari, possible survivor, Lieutenant Hale. A second voice came faintly behind him. A woman. Not Hale. Someone else. Saying. Wait for me. The trees in the orchard. He'd seen them. In dreams. And suddenly he wasn't sure if she was lost, or leading him. On the 21st day, he saw it. A beacon. Human. Built from scratch. Barely holding together. And beside it, a body. Not hers. A young man, curled into the base of the tower. Pale. Cold. Face peaceful. Clutched in his hands, a data core. Marek retrieved it. Played it. A message. Fragmented. Aneta Faye, orchard caretaker, she said he was still alive. Said she saw him in the trees, told me to find him. I tried. Aneta. A name he didn't know. But something about it made his fingers tighten. The file ended with static. And then, coordinates. Marek began walking. He didn't know who Aneta was. He didn't know where she came from. But if she had seen him in the trees, if she had led someone to that tower. Then she was trying to reach him, too. The days grew stranger. The sky whispered. The wind carried fragments of voices. The ground pulsed when he wept. The planet wasn't dead. It was listening. And somewhere, so was she. On the 34th day, he found the orchard. Silver trees. Glowing orbs. Soft wind. The song of remembered love. And there, beneath the newest tree, was a pendant. Silver. Etched in spirals. His fingers closed around it, and a message played. If you're Marek Salas, I found you. Or at least part of you. I hope you find the rest. Aneta. He stared up at the tree. Inside its orb, a reflection not of the past, but of possibility. Him. And a woman. Not Aneta. Her. He still didn't know her name. But the moment he saw her smile in the light of that tree, he whispered. I remember. She began dreaming of him before she knew his name. In the dreams, he always stood beneath a broken sky, his hands covered in ash, his eyes carrying centuries of grief. He never spoke. But she knew him. Intimately. Impossibly. He'd look at her like he'd already lost her once. And she'd wake up crying. Not soft tears. Not confusion. Mourning. For someone she didn't know. For a life she hadn't lived. Silari Knox worked alone in a floating station above the dust moon Isomerus. She was a dream mapper, a linguistic empath trained to interpret and record subconscious pattern language across sentient minds, human or alien. It was peaceful work. Data heavy. Isolated. Her lab was filled with mind map reels, sleep state holographs, psychic signature archives. No other crew. Just her, the station AI, and the long, rotating drift of stars beyond the glass. She liked the quiet. Liked knowing that while the galaxy burned, she was cataloging the dreams of its survivors. And then came the wrong dream. Not hers. Not stored in any archive. Just, there. A stranger. His voice like smoke. Saying one word. Wait. By the third week, the dreams had become immersive. She didn't just see him, she felt him. His memories. His pain. The rasp of dry air on his skin. The ache in his chest as he wandered a dying forest made of silver trees. Sometimes, she became someone else in the dream. A botanist named Aneta. Or a man named Corin. Or a boy holding a photograph. All broken. All reaching. All in love. And always, the stranger at the center of it. His name was never said. But her soul remembered it. Marek. She told the AI to scan her mind for any anomalies. No trauma signatures. No data corruption. No unauthorized neural contact. Then how? How was she dreaming things that hadn't happened to her, but felt truer than memory? The dreams began leaking into waking life. She started drawing him. Writing fragments of his voice. You said we'd survive, one note read. You said love would echo. It did. Worse, the station's psychic sensor began detecting ghost echoes. Pulses from deep space transmitters. One signal came again and again. This is Commander Ryan Voss. If you find this, tell them humans don't forget. She didn't know who Ryan Voss was. But his voice felt like a shadow that had walked beside her for years. She dove into the dream maps. Cross-referenced known survivors of the Alvari betrayal. Sorted genetic imprints, neural ID tags, failed recovery missions. None of it made sense. But one fragment reappeared, an orchard with memory trees. A woman with silver gloves walking alone. A name carved on a stone, Marek Salas. Her hands shook. She had never met him. But she knew how he tasted when he kissed her. Knew the sound of his laugh, tired and reluctant. Knew what it meant when he looked at her and said, "We are the last story the stars will tell." The dreams became real on the 34th night. Not figuratively. Literally. She awoke in the middle of her lab, glowing with residual stardust. Her sleep tracker had recorded 2 heartbeats during REM. Not a hallucination. Not schizophrenia. Someone had shared her dream. And he had whispered, just before fading. You don't belong in just one world. Solari changed everything. Rerouted her station's long-range signal array. Mapped coordinates from the residual dream echoes. Cross-referenced psychic spikes with gravitational lensing data. One point emerged. Not a planet. Not even a charted system. Just a silence in the void, where signals went to die. But in that silence was a pulse. Faint. Human. She broadcasted a message. Not formal. Not protocol. To whoever is dreaming through me, I see you. I remember you. Even if this is madness, I choose it. Tell me where you are. I'm coming. Days passed. No reply. And then, a blink. One pulse. A location. With only 3 words attached. Mirror station active. Solari launched the escape pod against protocol. No clearance. No confirmation. Just instinct, and love that defied logic. The journey lasted 5 days. Suspended in silence, she dreamed constantly. She saw Aneta's orchard. Saw Corin's broken hands lifting Sola from her sleep field. Saw Marek's eyes as he touched a tree and said, "I remember." And she saw herself, not as she was, but as she could be. Whole. Known. Held. The station appeared like a ghost. Abandoned. Black. Hovering above a fractured moon of crystal and ash. She docked manually. Stepped inside. Cold. Dead power. Except, a light in the center chamber. A console. Blinking green. And next to it, a journal. Open. Written in handwriting she recognized as her own. This is the version of me that loved him and lost him. This is the version that stayed. But maybe now, with you, we remember together. She sank to her knees. The station hummed. And then, a man appeared. Not in flesh. A projection. A message embedded in the core. Marek. He didn't speak. He only looked at her. Eyes wide. Like he saw her across time, across versions. And finally. He said. You found the mirror. You found me. Solari reached for the console. Not to stop the projection. But to answer. I never stopped looking.